looks like. And in terms of the periphery, the villages and towns that are within the city, we need to support them. And I've seen good support in terms of local enterprise, but I've also seen it in terms of COVID mobility, which leads us to the next big question, which seems to come in a lot of on the issue of Strand Road and the Strand Road cycleway. So I have as with all things Strand Road, there seems to be a good balance of people saying it's great to see it happen. And then there's another good balance of people saying on the questions of how do we justify it and why are we doing this to the area? I guess it's good to hear. I think the issue has always been when people heard this, they heard you saying it in media. And this comes back to my communication issue that a lot of times when we have projects, we don't talk about the projects first. We see it on a headline in media. So it's a good time to, I guess, bring your perspective in on what you think the project will be and how, or not will be, how it will look. And I guess to address some of the feedback here that we're getting on the Q&A, some people love it, some people hate it. What do you think?
Well, I obviously love it. I had a role in proposing it internally here. There's no doubt. I mean, the delivery of higher quality, good quality site facilities has been an objective of City Council for a number of years. Progress has been too slow. And while everybody, in principle is in favour of improved cycling, when we go to implement them, of course, everybody says, well, you can't put it out there. I don't want, my car park on, or I don't want this tree cut down. So it's always been difficult. So COVID undoubtedly gave a huge impetus to providing, and I make no apology for the fact that we've taken full advantage of COVID. And I think the reaction generally across the city has been, people say, well, great, we're getting protected cycleways and we're getting them in quickly. And I think Sandymount or the Strand Road, was another opportunity to get, a good quality cycle facility in, and it very much is mirroring what had been done in Dún Laoghaire. And yes, we're taking out a lane of traffic. We had taken a view that, we could afford to take out that lane of traffic. We're not going to get, there's the view around there, well, we can have cycle facilities, but there's been absolutely no interference in vehicular traffic. And I just don't think, it's not deliverable. There's going to have to be difficult decisions. Some people will both perceive themselves and will actually be inconvenienced, but it's not the end of civilization. They may have to, they'll always have vehicular access to their houses or their businesses. They may have to do a slight detour. But again, in return for that, you get a very high quality cycling facility. And we have seen, the experience that if you provide protected cycle facilities, people will use them. So there's been a huge uptake of cycling where we put in these facilities. And I think that makes the case where we need to put in a lot more. Recognizing that some people will feel that, well, some people have no intention of using them and they'll be inconvenienced. But I think that's a small price to pay for the very considerable advantages. So there we are.
And I guess the argument is, and this is the thing, I made no secret of the fact that I support this, because I do think you said taking advantage of COVID, but for me, it's about keeping people safe. And with COVID mobility, it's providing that safe space that people can still go out and try to kind of relieve some of the mental stress and physical stress they have, but feel socially distanced. And to have a city where you have those cycle lanes, where you have the wider footpaths, is essential. Like I look at the Paris model, I look at the Denmark model, I look at Italy and what they've been doing, and across the board, the COVID mobility model is not dissimilar to what's been rolling out abroad. I guess this comes back to an essential issue that I guess it comes to ultimately how we communicate and how we share information. There is a disconnect there, but I think we're doing it better. Like I've seen it recently where Sandymount residents received the information on what's happening with Strand Road, and I received a lot of feedback saying that that's great. Again, I received feedback saying that's not great, but there's always a balance to be struck. So I think in relation to this project, it's seeing how that balance is. Now, I do know that that there was an injunction going into court, and it might be going back in. It will be going back in April again. So that project right now, as it stands, we're going to look into what the issues are, and we're going to continue working on it. So, like, is there I guess.
Oh, just to be clear,
Yeah.
we will observe the terms of injunction. We have to stop working. So, all those half-built, the works, they would just have to stop immediately. So we will be fighting the substantive legal case, hopefully sometime in April. But like the city council is absolutely committed. We're not going to disappear just because this is a temporary setback. I think it was very unfortunate. But there we are. We'll abide by the terms, but we'll be back in April to make the substantive case again. I hope we win the substantive case in court.
Yeah.
But I personally think, this might be a setback, but there is a kind of an inevitability about sustainable travel. The notion that there will be unfettered private car travel, those days are over. It's not sustainable. There's a huge enthusiasm to move away from that. People may not like it. They'll have to adjust to it.
Just on the question of, there's lots of people going, well, there were alternative plans and why don't you move it into the wall side? Those were all assessed by the team. The alternative plan involved taking a whole footpath away, which is completely against the urban design manual, and going into the wall, the seawall itself ruins a whole section of biodiversity, which we can't afford to lose at the moment. So like engineers have looked at this to see what is the best way forward. And this is why there's a trial for this process. Now, I said it on chairing the consultative forum, I completely understand where people are coming from in terms of concerns, but we do ask that people try to connect into us or into the team or into the residents, because the last thing we want to do is make this a divisive issue. So we don't want to divide communities here. We want people to benefit from this and actually be able to use these facilities across the board in Dublin, especially in the community. So Owen, we're going to be wrapping up in a sec. I guess one key thing someone had said, does this mean College Green Plaza is dead? No, I don't think you said that, but just in case you.
No, the injunction applies to the Strand Road.